All right, so we're here at the Heliot Emil studio because I want to take you guys a little bit through what it means when we say we try to create an entire universe. For us, it's about incorporating various things into the idea of creating a fashion brand. For us, we really like sound, and we've worked with sound in various different ways. We've done custom speakers, we've done even a speaker that is almost like a DJ tool, which is the stem player. And here we can cut to the event that we did, also in this beautiful space. But basically every time it's revolving around sound. Sound is very special to us because it has the ability to kind of like convey a lot of emotions. You can create things that can build up emotions, you can drag out emotions, you can try to kind of like translate emotions in various different ways. That's also what we did when we created the custom playlists that we did, and all of the different soundscapes that we do during the shows that we have, the runway shows. They're all there to create certain emotions. And a lot of these things are obvious, but I think for us, it's always about tying the entire picture into the way that we're doing a collection. And this collection is actually very special because it revolves around sound. It's called CYMATICS, and basically CYMATICS is the visualization of sound. So whenever you can visualize a certain frequency, that is the semantics of that frequency. And you can visualize it very clearly, like you've probably seen those videos where you see a sound wave and it's moving based on the sound that's coming in. That's semantics. It's a visualization of sound. But there are various other ways that you can visualize it. We've tried to study some of these things of how sound is translated into a visual impact. And some of those things that we found were quite cool. For example, when you break the barrier of sound, it creates like a weird sort of mushroom shape. And we thought that that was very cool. We tried to mimic that in some of the pieces. And generally just tried to work with how can we encapsulate the idea of sound. We have also a few pieces here. Some of the other pieces, they're already in the showroom, ready for Paris. But some of the pieces that we have here, obviously something like this where the text says, "Let the silence speak," because sometimes the lack of sound can also speak 1,000 words, and can be kind of emphasizing or interesting. For example, if you cut the music before a beat drops, or if you kind of like see a certain thing but there's no sound, it can also emphasize that moment even more. Use this a lot in films, obviously, and in music and those kind of things. So I thought that that was like an interesting thing to highlight or revoke as well. But what I wanted to say with this is just that we really want to build an entire universe. So whether it's the way that we present the collections or the themes or the topics, all of these try to have multiple different aspects to them. And this episode is about how sound is a great inspiration for us and influences the way that we try to create the entirety of the universe. So hopefully you'll watch the whole thing and it'll explain itself. So we're here at the Heliot Emil STEM event in Copenhagen. We just had the performance with my good friend Louis Carnell. Just wanted to show you this device that we created with STEM. It's the Heliot Emil STEM player. So basically, it's a music device that breaks the track into 4 different audio tracks. So you have the bass, the drums, the vocal, and the guitar or piano or whatever is on there. And then you can remix songs back and forth. So you can play it, and then I can isolate just one part of the song, or just the piano part of the song, or just the vocal part of the song, or the vocal and the piano. And then I can mix it with another song, the drums from another song. I don't know if you can hear it here, but and then you can just play the drums and the vocal. So basically, it's like a remixing device. You can also just use it as a speaker, and it's made with this really, really nice silicone. It feels very nice to touch. So very unique device. But let's walk through the space, and I can show you kind of like the setup. We get this amazing setup. We had Louis perform in the middle of the whole setup. And then there is all the tripods with the STEM players all the way around. We did some nice little merch pieces. This is Heliot Emil and STEM earplugs. So all of the guests, they got these custom-made earplugs for the event. We did some other merch things as well. There's also a bag that the STEM player comes in. I can show you over here. This is the bag that we did. So magnetic closure, it's padded, so obviously to protect the device. You have the Heliot Emil branding on the front, the STEM branding on the back, and obviously the HE details. And yeah, just meant to be a carry case for the device. It fits perfectly inside, obviously. Hi, my name is Julius Jewell, and I'm the creative director here at Heliot Emil. And I'm here to walk you through the pre-autumn-winter 26 collection titled Semantics. At Heliot Emil, we've long been fascinated with sound and everything that sound encapsulates. From doing events with people that are very deep into creating sounds to actual speakers that we've collaborated on with different companies. And we've long been fascinated with the idea of what sound represents for us. So naturally, this collection is themed around sound, and it's called Semantics. And semantics is the visual representation of sound patterns. So basically, all sounds can be broken down into megahertz, and these different megahertz, they are represented through different visual patterns through semantics. What you would do is you would put some sand onto a playing field, and you would vibrate those different frequencies onto that playing field, and you will see the patterns that emerge from that sand. So if you come closer here, you can see some of those patterns that are created with different frequencies. So as you can see, depending on the frequency, you'll have a different shape and a different pattern. And I thought that that was very interesting and could be an interesting visual representation of sound, because obviously sound is something that you can't really see. It's something that you experience. But what happens when you can see it? Also something like a fighter jet breaking the barrier of sound, creating this very mushroom-like feeling around the plane, was a very interesting study that we tried to sort of like encapsulate in different colors, different shapes on the garments. And then you have sound waves. So if you see, semantics can also be shown through water. And here you'll see that you have these ripples in the water. So we try to replicate that in the different patterns and in the different shapes. There's multiple different levels and different studies that we did on the entire theme of sound. And basically we tried to incorporate our general sort of like design aesthetic, the industrial elegance of Heliot Emil, with the idea of representing sound as a visual medium. So this was the ripple effect that I was saying before. It's sort of like a visual representation of sound. Then there are a lot of other pieces that sort of represents those different frequencies. And we also got these pitchforks, which you can see here represented by different frequencies. And basically what happens if you bang this, you'll hear that it emits that frequency. And those frequencies, they have different representations, and some are like calming for the system, some are uplifting for the system. It was just very interesting studying everything that sound can represent in sort of like a theme and a universe through us. So yeah, thank you so much for being part of this, and we really hope that you like this collection as much as we do. Who am I listening to a lot? I dabble in a lot of like different genres. It depends on like the mood and everything. I think I've been listening to a lot of Forted just because it's like sounds and like something that you can also work to and work out to and still keep your mind sort of like active. So yeah, and I feel like he represents the concept and the idea of Heliot Emil very well, because he's like, you know, experimental in an interesting way, but keeps a certain vibe and sound consistently throughout his music. So if you haven't already, check him out for TED. There's so many things that we take for granted because they're always just there. Like this fast fashion and fast food mindset has seeped into the way that we consume art.
like movies that we've watched while we're answering a text or scrolling on our phones, the meals that we've eaten without even tasting them, or the music that's playing in the background while we miss all the details that the artist worked tirelessly to perfect. So for Ted, he did something extremely curious. He built a hidden corner of Spotify using aliases to make it harder to find, because he didn't want people to just search his name and then hit shuffle. He wanted listeners to choose to be there in that exact moment, so there was an intention behind listening to his work. I find this so inspiring. Simply put, the aliases used symbols that you couldn't just type on a keyboard and search for them. You had to deliberately choose the artist to play the song. So this obviously made people more intentional and present while listening to the artist. So after we did a bunch of parties and speakers and the STEM player release and everything, we obviously knew that we owed you guys a playlist. But not just any playlist. Not something that gets lost in the algorithm of binge listening. Very inspired by Forted, we wanted to create a playlist that has a name that you have to look for. So only those who truly want to listen will discover it. Now see if you can find our playlist on Spotify.